the questions will be like find the area of a rectangle, find the maximum of 10 numbers. Very low level C programming course. So I wanted them to understand at least the basics. So my threshold is if they can write a program to find maximum of 10 numbers and sum of 10 numbers, they'll pass. Okay. So that was the kind of outcome I expected. Okay. So the incidents for the story happened when once we grade, you have the full autonomy there. You set the question paper, you set the split up, continuous evaluation, how many marks, assignment, all you can decide. You have full autonomy. But the only thing is that once you finalize the grade, there will be a department meeting. Okay. So in my when I attended the meeting with other professors, one student, one Fatima Parveen from Pakistan, she got 100 out of 100. These professors were very surprised. Okay, how come you give 100 out of 100? Okay, I said whatever I asked, she did it correctly. So all assignments she did all. Then they said no, you can't give 100 out of 100. And few students failed also. Some 3-4 students failed. So this is the kind of grading evaluation what we do over here. If some student is very good in a class, we may have 3 or 4 students who get maximum mark. Few students will fail. And so they said you can give the mark, but you have to defend why you are given. You have to present your course file. You have to show the question paper. You have a syllabus. Have you set the question paper according to the syllabus? All those things will be scrutinized. Okay. So I said, since I given mark, I'm not going to reduce it. I'll stick to it. Fortunately, the vice chancellor didn't call me, but I learned how to grade in Oman. Okay. And they said this failing also is not good. You have to give them makeup. You have to teach them, because if you fail many students, what will happen is we won't get students. The university has to run. That doesn't mean that you have to pass them freely. You can give them some makeup exams. Hello, Dr. Matthew, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
So the thing which I learned from there is nobody told me how to grade. Okay. Nobody told me what is right and wrong. Nobody told me what is the kind of, nobody can tell you, okay, what is the kind of question paper you have to set. But I learned from my experience, from the environment. The environment is Dhofar University. The meetings are kind of my measurements. I learned what kind of actions I should take. How should I grade? What kind of question papers should I set? That should be, I realized that should be a very challenging question in the question paper. And you have a lot of assessments, formative assessment 1 or midterm 1, midterm 2, then final. So if you see that you can adjust your pegging, you can adjust your level as a teacher. So as a teacher, we have been doing this throughout unknowingly. And this is what is reinforcement learning. We learn to take action in a situation. Matthew, are you recording? Someone is recording?
Yeah, we are recording.
Okay. So since this gave me motivation, because Matthew is recording, I thought we could, because of many reasons, we have only few participants. I know that classes are going on. So I thought since Dr. Matthew will be recording, I can use it. So the point which I want to tell you is that my Dhofar experience, we all have such kind of experience. We learn from environment how to behave. We learn from environment how to behave. And I was a teacher in Kerala. So in Kerala, if somebody is very poor, we'll fail them. If somebody is good, we'll give them full marks. So there I have learned something here. When I go from Kerala to Oman, the environment there is slightly different. So I have to adapt. I have to learn how to act there. And who will teach me? That is the point. It's not supervised learning. Nobody is going to tell me what to do and what not to do. In that environment, slowly I will learn how to behave. So with that prelude, let me start my talk formally. I'll share my slides now. Are you seeing my screen?
It's not yet
Okay.
come. Oh yeah,
Okay. I have stopped sharing. Okay. Because I wanted to see you, but once I share the entire screen, I won't be seeing you. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I hope you like the story. I don't know whether I could convey what I wanted. Okay. So you learn from experience. As a teacher, all of you, many are teachers, we learn from environments.
Yeah, we can see the screen now. Yeah, it is in full screen. Yeah.
So this is organization. So as a teacher, I will teach you very slowly the most important things. Other things you could get from YouTube. I would try to, this is my objective, I will try to give you enough vocabulary so that those who are interested will be able to pick up reinforcement learning and apply this to smart grid scheduling problems. So first I will tell you what is a single stage decision making problem. Then I will talk about learning automata. Then I will give you an example of a smart grid scheduling problem. I have written problems, but I may be telling you only, or maybe 2 problems. Then I will tell you about multi-stage decision-making problem. Then for solving multi-stage decision-making problem, we require reinforcement learning. Then I will tell you how we can apply it to some smart grid scheduling problems. Then I will tell you where to read, what are the current trends, how to move forward. Okay, so that is the overall organization of the talk. And the talk is for 90 minutes, so 15 is already gone. So effectively, I'll get 1 hour. After 1 hour, I will have a question answer session. If there are no much questions, I will keep talking again. So that is the plan. So this is how rat learns. You can see a rat or mice. So here there's a rat here. What it wants is somehow it has to go through this grid and get its food. Okay, so it learns. I'll tell that again later on. So let me tell you something concrete. All stories for engineering to tell stories and get to the learning outcome will be very tough. I thought I just want to inspire you I just want you to understand the definition of reinforcement learning. So let us consider a very simple problem, an arm bundle problem. There is arm 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. N. There are n arms are there. So this problem is to find which arm is the best arm. What is best? So this is a casino game. If I pull arm number 1, it will give me some. I have to play this. I have to pay 10 rupees. So if I play arm number 1, I may get 20 rupees, maybe 21 rupees, maybe 15 rupees. So arm 1, I'll get some return. When I play arm 1, I'll get some return. When I play arm 2, I'll get some other return. When I play arm 3, I'll get some other return. When I play arm n, I'll get some other return. What is the problem? The problem is to find the best arm. So what is best? Best is characterized by, let us put some structure to this. Each arm will generate a random number with a normal probability distribution. So arm number 1 will generate a random number with probability distribution with mean, say 7. So if you don't recall normal distribution correctly, what it means is that arm number 1 will generate a random number around 7. Sometimes 7, sometimes 8, sometimes 9, sometimes 6, 5. So it is plus or minus 3, 7 plus or minus 3. arm number 2 will generate a random number, say, between plus or 20 plus or minus 3. Arm number 3 will generate a random number 10 plus or minus 3. So the idea is each arm will generate a random number with a fixed mean to make the problem tractable. Each arm will generate a random number with a mean. So what we have to find out is which arm corresponds to maximum mean. So if you find the arm corresponds to maximum mean, you are done. You can keep on playing that arm. Is the problem clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So that is the problem. So how will we solve this problem? This problem could be efficiently solved using learning automata. So let us see how we play this problem. One way to solve this is not learning automata. One way is I'll play arm number 1, then arm number 2. Here the x-axis is the trial number. Okay. First trial I played arm number 1. In this diagram, the y-axis is action. First trial I played action 1. Second trial I played action 2. Third trial I played action 3, and so on. So this is one way of doing it. I played 50 times. Can you tell me which is the best arm? This is a computer generated. We wrote a simple code, and can you say which arm is the best by looking at this? Anyone? It is difficult to find which arm is best. Another way to do the same thing is use some simple maths which you have studied in school. You find average corresponding to each arm. This is, all of you know that by strong law of large numbers, this QNA will converge to mean of the arm. So I should tell you what is this OA. So let us put some maths here. So I will denote the arm which I am playing by action and my observation by O. So O1 means the observation corresponding to arm 1. O2 means observation corresponding to arm 2, so on and so forth. So what is this? I play arm number 1, say 100 times, then I is equal to 1 to n OIA is the total reward or total observation I got by playing arm number 1. And what is QNA? QNA is the average value. To say it mathematically, it is the sample mean. QNA is the sample mean corresponding to n observation. In simple terms, QNA is the average. So the idea is you play arm number 100 times, arm number 200 times, arm number 300 times, arm number n 100 times. Then you will get QNAG. AG is called the greedy arm, which is equal to max QNA. So to tell this, QN1 is 15, QN2 is 21, QN3 is 7, QN8 is 36, QN4 is 36, and all other QNs are less than 36. Then QN, the maximum value is 36. Then AG corresponds to the greedy action. So this way we could solve this problem. We want this notation for RL. That is why I'm spending so much time. Q is the quality of the action, and AG is the greedy action. So this is one way of solving this problem. I'll repeat it again. I'll play this arm. I'll play this arm 100 times. I'll play this arm 100 times. I'll play this arm 100 times. I'll find the average corresponding to each arm and find the arm corresponding to maximum value. So is there any better method? So if I play arm number 1 and if I look like this, I'll get. So this is one of the greatest algorithm as far as RL is concerned. Qn plus 1 A is equal to QNA plus alpha n into OA minus QNA. The problem with the earlier brute force method is you play arm number 100 times, and you play, if you are 10 arms, you have to play 1,000 times. Then only you have some answer. Suppose some of the arms are really bad. Why waste your energy in playing that arm? So this gives us a online equation. What does this mean? This means new estimate of what do I want? I want Q&A for all arms. What does this say? New estimate is equal to old estimate plus alpha n into observation minus current estimate. And what is this? This is error. So what this says is that new estimate is equal to old estimate plus alpha n into error. This algorithm was developed by Robin Monroe in 1956. So what is learning automata? Some form of Robin Monroe algorithm and a strategy for balancing exploration versus exploitation. At the end of this talk, I want you to be clear about this word, exploration versus exploitation. I will tell you that. So this is these were the means I used to generate my Enam Bandit. So this is unknown to me. So there is a simulator, and there's an environment, and there's a player. So when you go to a casino, the casino owner will not tell you which arm corresponds to the maximum mean. These are the actual means. These are the estimated means found using learning automata. You can see that the actual estimate is not important. What is important is who is the maximum guy. So this is the maximum guy. And when you use learning automata, we'll be playing, this is the second maximum guy. So the beauty of learning automata, by balancing exploration and exploitation, I'll be playing more often the possibly the best arms rather than playing all arms equally. So I hope that point is clear. In learning automata, that is the trick of balancing exploration and exploitation. So let me give you one physical example, one real life example of this Enam Bandit problem. We want to find the best term. Instead of finding the best term, let us think that we want to find the best hotel in Kollam. So to find the best, so what is the decision-making problem there? So the decision-making problem there is, you have 10 hotels in Kollam. We have Remis, we have Allspace, we have Selim, we have Coffee House, we have many hotels. We want to find the best hotel. And we know that every time the hotel may not be giving the same tasty, same kind of food. There may be some variations. So I won't be going to hotel number 1 10 times, then hotel number 2 10 times, hotel number 3 10 times. No. I will, at random, I will explore. When I'm new to Kollam, at random, I will go to all hotels 1 or 2 times. After that, I realized that this, from my experience, Allspace and Remis are good. Then what will I do after that? Most of the time, I'll go to Allspace or Remis. And slowly, I will converge to some value. This is the idea of balancing exploration versus exploitation. This is how we do also. In a class, we want to find who is the best student. We won't be trying to assess everyone, or maybe HOD want to find who is the best teacher. HOD won't be observing all faculty members and trying to find out. He will know that, or she will know that, say, 2 or 3 are good faculties. So then she will keep on observing that and keep updating. So some value will be there for each faculty. So if faculty performs better than that, we will increase the number. Okay. So that is about learning automata algorithm is Robin Monroe algorithm and a strategy for balancing exploration versus exploitation. Let me give you an example from Smart Grid. So price-based DR, DR stands for demand response. So when you're applying RL or learning automata, you have to model your problem into this abstraction. What is the abstraction here? We have action and we have reward and we have greedy action. So let me try to explain you how this demand response problem, non-electrical engineers also will, anyway, smart grid means power system and you have heard about demand response and things like that. So let me explain you this optimization problem. This is, I am a consumer. I want to reduce my electricity bill. What is available? A good advanced metering infrastructure is there. Methods to remotely control the loads are there. Loads are smart. And if I can formulate this problem as a n-abundant problem, I can use learning automata. This is all of you know from the smart grid classes. Until last century, demands were generally considered as uncontrollable but predictable. A controllable generation sources were scheduled to meet the uncontrollable forecasted load. So this was say pre-1980s. So we thought that generation means we know. If somebody opens up the valve at, if suppose somebody opens up a thermal power station, it will start generating power and demands cannot be controlled. Somebody may be switching on a light here or there, or some factory may be switching on and off. So that was the scenario. When smart grid came, what happened? A considerable portion of generating units have become uncontrollable but predictable. Take PV for example. PV is it's predictable, but it is uncontrollable. And with development of communication technologies, major portion of the load can become controllable. Say we have an electric vehicle. An electric vehicle will come to your home. You will park your vehicle in your garage, maybe at 6 in the evening, and you want it to be fully charged by next day morning. So it doesn't matter when you're switching. You have devices which can switch on the charging at any desired time. And tariff is not fixed. Tariff is now, even KCB is telling that they are planning to have high tariff in the night. That is from say 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Then a lot of critical peak pricing, real-time pricing, all those things are there. So under such scenario, we'll have a plug-in vehicle. Then, so it is treated as traditional load earlier. Earlier, PEV is charged whenever it is plugged, and it is billed at normal rate. Now things are changing. So because of that, what happens? There's a peak here. This is 6 p.m. or 4 p.m. The peak slowly starts, and there's a peak here. I don't want to charge my car here. I want to charge my car somewhere here. Then now PEVs are flexible load. I said I can charge between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So this is what I told you. So I reach home in the evening, maybe 6 p.m. and I go to my office or college at 7 a.m. in the morning. So my car is there from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. So when to charge? So let us formulate this problem of demand response. So in demand response, I'm taking specifically electric vehicle. So to put it, let me repeat again. The problem is, I know my tariff is variable, maybe random. I want to know when I should charge my car. So to put it in a proper mathematical framework, we have 24 hours. 12 midnight to 1 a.m. I'll take it as 1. 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. I'll take it as 2, and so on. Then I represent the load as follows. dj as sj, fj, lj, rj. What is sj, fj? Sj, fj is the start time, sj is the start time, and fj is the end time. Lj is the total number of hours the car needs to be charged. Lj is the number of hours the car needs to be charged. Rj is the rate at which the car will get charged. Say your car may be getting charged 6 kilowatt, then Rj is 6 kilowatt. Your car requires 18 kilowatt hour to be fully charged, then Lj is 3. Your car reached home at maybe in the office, your car reached in the college at 9 a.m. So Sj is 9, and you are going home at 5 p.m. So Fj is 12 plus 5, 17. So I'm representing my car by this number dj, this tuple. Then if it is a college campus, the problem is I want there are n cars. So there are n cars, and the tariff is Ck. So K equal to Sj into Lj minus 1. K is equal to Sj plus Lj minus 1 gives me the time, the tariff for one car, and j equal to 1 to n gives me the tariff for n cars. So if the Ck is random, what I want is I can't minimize the total. I'll be minimizing the expected value. This, as I told you, this is the cost of a single load during the kth interval. My car is being charged during a particular hour. So this is the total cost of the jth load or the jth car. This is the total cost for all the loads. And this is the expected value of the total cost of all the loads. So in the Enam Bandit problem, we wanted to maximize the expected return, not the individual return. Here also we want to minimize the expected cost. So we formulated this problem as a single stage decision making problem, where the decision to be made is when to start charging. So here S1, S2, etc., Sn are my free variables, are the decision variables. So what is the action which I have to take, or I won't be going and switching on the car. There will be a smart plug. The smart plug with this algorithm will find when each car should be switched on. So what will be the idea? At initially, we'll switch on at random times. As we go forward and forward, we will find the best time for switching on the cars. So these are some simulation results which told us that the best time to charge the cars is during this interval. So we have, I hope you understood single stage decision making problem. Single stage decision making problem, I explained you two problems. One is Enam Bandit problem, where the problem is to find which is the best action, which arm I have to play. So for that, we will use Robin-Monroe algorithm to find the estimate of the expected result, which is given by new estimate Qn plus 1a is equal to old estimate Qna plus alpha into error. So initially, one way to do it is, I told you I'll tell you about balancing exploration and exploitation. So if I'm always playing the greedy arm, it is called exploitation. Then what will happen is initially I may play 2 arms and I'll not explore other actions. So in the case of hotels, initially I may be going to 2 or 3 hotels. If I exploit, if I only go to what is supposedly the best hotel, then I may miss the best hotel. So initially I'll explore. Initially I will try all the hotels. And as I get a feel of the hotels, I will spend more and more time on the supposedly the best hotel. So the part where I give value for my estimate is called exploitation. Where I go and at random, if I go to some hotel, it's called exploration. There are various ways of getting a trade-off between exploitation and exploration. One is every time, let me make that point clear before going to RL. I promised you that. So this is one take-home message: exploration versus exploitation. Exploitation is you play an arm, greedy arm, that is the arm which corresponds to the maximum Q value. So this is called exploitation. What is the problem with exploitation? We may miss out. Maybe I thought 2 or 3 is the best arm. So if I keep on playing 2 or 3, then I may arm number 7 may be good. So what is exploration? I will play a random arm. So how will I balance it? I'll draw a graph here. This is my iteration number. Initially, I will have a number called epsilon. Epsilon is, say, initially is 0.8. So with probability 0.8, I'll play random. So I won't look at my QN values. I'll play random arm initially. So for the first 100 trials, 80% of my actions will be random. After some time, what will I do? I'll reduce my epsilon. I will play a random arm with probability 0.6. Then after 100 iterations, I'll play random arm with probability 0.4. So slowly I will decrease that randomness. So this is one way of balancing exploitation and exploration. So let me go forward. Let us consider multi-stage decision-making problem. So similar to single-stage decision-making problem, this is a grid world. I have cells 1, 2, 3 up to 6, 7, 12, etc. These are shaded. You can see shading. So the problem is I'm here. I want to find the minimum route. So if you know this diagram, you can find this is a minimum route. So here, what is the minimum? Minimum is the number of steps required for me to reach from my start state to goal state. Now, in this problem, some states are shaded. States which are, or cells which are shaded means they are blocked. So how will an agent move around and find out the best path? The agent could be a robot, it could be a UAV, or anything. It could be a packet in communication. You're sending some packet from here to, say, USA. So which all routers it should take. So I will use this to explain you the terminology. What is state? If you remember the example which I told you as a prelude, when I was in Oman in the story, the state is whatever observation, sensory feelings I get, whatever my peers, my professors, colleagues, the administration is saying. What is the action in this particular problem? I'll look at this abstract problem. In this particular problem, action A is there's a robot, it can move to in 4 directions. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then there is a transition cost. What is the transition cost? When I go from here to here, there's a cost. When I go from here to here, there's a cost. So in general, when I go from X to Y, there's a cost. So I am in state X. If I take action A and if I go to Y, there's a cost. And this cost is called reinforcement. And that's this transition function. So you are in state X. You take an action A, you will reach Y. If you are always reaching Y, we say we are doing a deterministic problem. But if you have a transition probability Pxya, we say we are in a stochastic environment, or we are trying to solve a stochastic optimization problem. I'll come to the problem shortly. So let me explain this Pxya. So I am here. My X is 4. My X is 4. I take an action right. So when I can tell you a simple scenario where this Pxya is. So P 4, 5. I took action right. My right action is left is 1, right is 2. P5 2 1. P4 5 2. What does this mean? I am in 4. I take action 2. I reach with if this is equal to 1, then I will always reach state 5. Suppose this is 0.9. This is the transition probability. P452 is 0.9. What does that mean? I am in 4. If I take action A, I will reach state 5 with probability 0.9. And with probability 0.1, I'll remain in 4. So we can have such kind of problems. If you say, excuse me for outside Kerala, in English, if I have an elephant and I say, move right elephant, the elephant may not move. 90% of the time it may move. So I can capture such things by this transition probability. Then what I want is, I want to find a policy pi x. What is pi x? So we have x in this particular problem is 1, 2, 3 up to 36. Pi x is a rule which tells what is the value of action in x. I'll tell about pi x more shortly. So let me tell you the problem. The problem is, the objective of the problem is to find optimal sequence of actions A0, A1, etc., An minus 1, so that expected value of sigma k is equal to 0 to n minus 1, gamma k, g, xk, ak, xk plus 1 is minimized. Here, in enum-bounded problem, we were trying to minimize an expectation of a random variable, qa. Here, we are trying to minimize the expectation of sum of random variables. Gamma is the discount factor. So let me tell you again this problem. So we know the notations. We have states 1, 2, 3, etc., 36. Then we have transition. So this is part of the design. So when I go from 1 to 2, what is the cost? We know the transition probabilities. Then how many possible routes are there? 4 raised to 35 different paths will be there. So, and we don't know the probabilities. We don't know the probabilities. We have only a simulation model. Yes, I was looking at this. So how will we solve this problem? The above class of problems can be solved using R. So what is the problem? Let me repeat the problem again. I have a cell grid world of 36 states. I want to find the actions left, right, up, down, so that I will reach from cell 1 to cell 35 in minimum number of steps. And I want to find the policy. What is the policy? Policy is like this. This is my x. This is my pi of x. Any doubt? Any doubt? Are you with me? Hello, are you sleeping?
Yes, we can. We are.
Okay, you can hear me, Ale. No issues. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take a, okay, I will 31%. Let me let me take a short break.
Okay. So participants, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box. Maybe Dr. Imtiaz can take it as time permits.
Yes, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box. And once I finish grid world, I'll ask you for questions. If you ask me some questions, I'll be very happy. I hope nobody has slept.
No, sir, not at all.
Not at all. Thank you. Can you see the slides? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, let me repeat the problem again. Here I have 36 states. And I know that when I say left, it will go left very high probability. Sometimes it may stay back. And
Hello, sir.
So is there a network issue?
Audio is not clear. Yes, sir, maybe.
Sir, I think the overall network, there is some issue.
Okay, so yeah, I'll check with TSR. Yeah, so there was some network issue. So India sir will join in another 1 or 2 minutes. So sorry for the inconvenience caused. Participants can be stay online.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear, sir.
Is it okay or? So I don't know.
Yeah, fine.
Just hold on, Matthew. Did you see the slide?
So slides are not yet
Okay, okay,
shared.
okay, okay, okay. Did you see state transition? Is it shared now?
Yeah, so slides are coming. Yeah.
Did you
So
see the
this
slide?
we have in yeah. So you can it's not in full screen. So this slide we haven't seen. Yeah, state transition function.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll start. Did you see the slide?
Uh, n- no.
Okay, so fine. So I'll say you about the problem. To understand the problem. I want to find the problem is I want to start from here. Am I audible?
Yeah, so you are audible. Maybe you can switch off the video. It may be. So I doubt if the bandwidth is limited or. So do you want me to present the slides?
So again, the net connection is lost.
Okay, so hopefully NTSR will join back.
Sir, he will join via his siblings network connecting to hotspot because our college Wi-Fi is not. it's stable.
Oh, Dr. Matthew, can you hear me now? I'm back. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. We can hear you, sir. So, do you
Okay.
want me to present the slides or?
No, I
Is
can.
that-
I can.
Okay.
So let me tell you about. Can you hear me now, Matthew?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. So I'll tell you the problem again here. I want to start from cell number 1 and I want to reach the goal state in minimum number of steps. That is a problem. And few cells are blocked. And the cost of transition and the transition probability, transition is not deterministic, it is stochastic. And even if it is deterministic, there are 4 raised to 35 possible paths. So if I'm using my brute force method, that is try one path, then try another path, I have to try 4 raised to 35 paths. And if I have to get an expected value, I have to repeat all the paths 20 times. So these are challenges, and RL reinforcement learning can solve this problem. So design of RL algorithms involves defining the state space, action space, state transition function, and reinforcement function. Let us quickly see how we'll design this. So in our problem, the state is the cell number, current state, where you are. If you're a robot sitting in a 6x6 square grid, the current position is the current state. Possible values of all states corresponds to the state space, and action spaces 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 corresponds to right, 2 corresponds to left, and so on. This is the transition function. If I am in state 8, if I take action 1, I will go to 9 if it's deterministic. If I take action 2, I will go to 7. If I take action 3, I will go up. So that has been coded. And you may have to do some little bit coding, because if I'm in 6, if I'm in these boundary states, if I say go right, cannot go there, it will remain there. And if I'm in state 11, if I say go down, it's a blocked state, it cannot go there. So on. So this is my transition function. Then when you are designing RL algorithm, you have to decide the reinforcement function. What is the reinforcement function? Reinforcement function here, to model this problem, what I do, if I sometimes land up in cell number 50, I will give a high penalty, that is 100. And for all other
Imtiaz,
states,
sir,
yes.
Yes, so there is a query from one of the participants, Jyoti Kulkarni. Maybe can you unmute yourself and ask? Jyoti Kulkarni is there? So the question posted is, will you please repeat the starting part of the problem? I think she may be asking about the design, the
Okay.
yeah, maybe. Okay, I don't have microphone.
Okay,
Fine.
so you have to give me 5 more extra minutes, okay, because of this technical issues.
Yeah,
So
no
the
problem. You
problem,
can take.
So the problem is, this is called a grid world. I want to find an optimal path from starting state to the goal state. The problem is I don't know this grid world. For the player, for the agent, doesn't know the grid world. It knows it can move around. It can move around like this. It can move around and finally find the way. It will keep on moving around. When it comes to an obstacle, it will realize it is an obstacle. So that is the problem. So knowing the problem is very important. Let me take my minds at this point. Thank you, whoever has asked. This is the problem, the grid world or the maze problem. There's a rat here, it has to reach here. It does not know the map. What will be, keep on moving. It'll keep on moving and finally it will find out the shortest path. So I hope the problem is clear. Jodi, who asked the doubt, is the problem clear?
Yeah. Yes.
That is the problem. And what is the difficulty? Yes. So to believe the technology that the state X, action A, transition cost and transition and policy by. And what I want to find a sequence of actions is A1, etc., an minus 1, such that the total expected cost is minimized. So what are the challenges here? The transition cost is random. The transition is stochastic. Possible paths are a very huge number. Now, this problems could be solved using RL. To solve this problem using RL, we have to design. We have to decide what is state. The state is 1, 2, 3, etc. Then action is the current action 1 value and action space is 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to decide on state transition function and we have to decide on reinforcement function. And what is state for this problem is the current value of where you are. And what is state space? State space is all possible values. And what is action space? All possible actions. So the transition function for problem A is if I'm 8, if I say I'm an 8, if I say 40. So this is state transition function. Initial deterministic thing, then I will go to stochastic. So this is my reward function. For all state, the cost is 1. If it is a block state, the cost is 100. So is the problem clear? Is the problem clear? Formulation clear? Jodi?
Yeah. So it is written in chat box that it is clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this problem could be solved using Q-learning. You remember our algorithm for n-abundant problem, new value, this is my footer, new value is current value plus alpha in correction. Same thing we will have here also in Q-learning. So to find the optimal path, what we are going to do in Q-learning is one of the RL learning, I'm focusing on that only. In Q-learning, we will learn the Q values. What is Q value? Q value tells in state X, how good it is to take action A. So, for example, I'm in state 8. I got Q81, Q82, Q83, Q84. So, if Q81 is 70, Q81 is Q81 is 70. Q82 is 52. Q83 is 77. Q84 is which is the best action? We want the action corresponding to minimum Q value. So that is the idea. So Q81 equal to 70. That is the expected cost that is incurred if I am in state 8, take action 1. Q82, if you are in state 8, take action 2, what is the expected cost? So we want to find the minimum cost. So if I know all the Q values, I know the policy. So I told you, I'll tell the policy very clearly. This is what I want to learn. I have 1 to 35. I want to find what is the best action here. What is the best action here? What is the best action here? This is the problem. And let us be a little more mathematical. Q pi xa is defined as expected value of total return. I told you this Q pi xa is the expected long-term reinforcement. The agent starts in state X, take action A in the starting state, and thereafter follow policy pi. That's Q pi xa. Then Q star xa, we don't know the optimal policy. Suppose I know the optimal policy. Q star xa is expected long-term reinforcement when the agent start in state X, take action A in the starting state, and thereafter follow optimal policy. That is Q star X. We won't put a star always. When I say QXA, it means, I'll repeat QXA again. It is the total expected return which we get if we follow optimal policy. We are in X, we will take action A itself, and thereafter we follow optimal policy. That is QXA. So what you have to realize is that if I can learn QXA, and suppose QXA star is less than QXA for all A. In our grid problem, I said Q82 is less than Q81, Q83, Q84. Then what is the best action? 2 is the best action. So Qx prime A star is less than Qx prime A for all A. Then I call A star is the optimal action. So Q learning involves, so I hope you at least appreciate this point. If I know Q values for all state action pair we are done, like just like that, if I know Q values for all hotels, I know Q value for Ramesh, I know Q value for all space, I know Q value for Selim Hotel, I know Q value for Town Hotel, I know Q value for all hotels. Then I know which is the best hotel. Similarly, here it is not a single stage decision-making problem. It's a multi-stage decision-making problem. In each state, I should know the Q value for all actions. So if I know Q value for all actions, I know the optimal policy. So the idea of Q learning is you learn Q values. How do I learn Q values? The new Q value is current Q value plus a correction term. This correction term comes from the stochastic approximation, or all of you know about Gauss-Seidel iteration, isn't it? So it's something, so I'm not going to the derivation of this. So let me explain you the algorithm. Initialize QXA. So I hope all of you agree with one point. If I know Q values for all state action pair, I'm done. So since I don't know, what will I do? I will initialize all QXA pair with random number. Then initialize epsilon to 0.5. Set alpha to 0.1. Set gamma to 1. Then for I equal to maximum episodes, I'm in X equal to 1 and K is equal to 1. While X not equal to XG, select an action using epsilon greedy algorithm. I have told you epsilon greedy algorithm earlier. I'll repeat again. I'm now here. Which action will I take? I know Q11, Q12, Q13, Q14. I will find the minimum. The action which is giving me the minimum Q value. I will take that action with probability 1 minus epsilon, and will take random action with probability epsilon. Or in short, I am in state 1. I will take a random action with probability 0.8 and the supposedly best action with probability 0.2. Then if I took the action right, I will reach here. So obtain the G value, that the transition cost or the reinforcement cost. Then update QXA. What is QXA? Equation 2 I have written here. QX new is QXA plus alpha error. Then what is my new state? X is now 2. My iteration is increased, K is equal to 2. I'm here. Then I'll take what? I'll take action based on epsilon greedy. I'm here. I'll get my transition cost. I'll update Q. Then I'll do what again? I'll take a random action. Say here. Then I'll go here. I saw an obstacle. When I saw an obstacle, the reward will be large. So the algorithm will realize that when I'm here, it is not very good to go in this direction. So this R algorithm, this is the number of steps. This I want to show you how the R algorithm learned. Initially, it took 180 steps to reach the goal state. As we moved on, after 400 iterations, it could find the best path. This is a simple program, MATLAB program, and this is epsilon scheduling, pooling schedule. Initially, the random action is taken with probability 0.5. Slowly, I will decrease it. So this problem was a deterministic problem. We made it slightly harder by doing what? Making some state transition stochastic. This all region is stochastic. That is, what is the stochastic? When I say go down, it will go down with probability 0.9 and it will remain there with probability 0.1. When I say go right, it will go to cell 1. If I say go right with probability 0.9, it will go to cell 2, and with probability 0.1, it will remain there. I hope you understood. Then these states have random cost. So if I end up in this state, there's a cost, random cost between 0 and 200. And if I move to any normal state, the cost is 10. And if I move in this state, it is also random. So the algorithm could find this hole. It found the optimal path. It found the optimal path is through this cell number 78. So that is the beauty of this algorithm. So this you can see that since there are random costs, even after reaching the optimum, the number of steps will be sometimes random. Why? Because the transition, the state transition is random. So even the corresponding the optimal policy, it won't be always the same number of steps. It will vary. Because when I'm in state 1, and if I say go down, it will go down only 0.9, 90% of the time. So we will get the optimal path in an expected sense. So what does it mean is that I want to go from here to Chinnakada. So there are some states are block states. You can't go through block states. Some states, there may be at Kallinda Junction, those who are from Kollam or from any part of the world, there will be some main road. The main road, there may be a block. So you'll take a byline. What is the problem with the byline? The cost involved in travel time, there the cost is travel time, is random. So the byline usually may take less time, but sometimes there may be some truck or something, then you are done. So the cost there is random. So you don't want to find, you can't find the minimum cost. We want to find the minimum cost in an expected sense. Every time you go from along the same route, if I take the same route 100 times, the cost will be different. Why? Because whenever I say down, it may not go down. And whenever I come to this cell number 75, the cost is random between 0 and 10. So I hope you got the point. So you can Google this great authors, Sutton and Bartow. It's a very readable book. This is my guide, Professor Shastri. He also has written a book. It's slightly mathematical. This is those who are very mathematically bent. Reinforcement learning could be thought of as an approximation of dynamic programming, put with a neural network or deep learning added to it. And Bertsikas is a great mathematician, or I haven't heard him or I haven't met him, but I have met people who have met him. What is said about him is that he lived in optimization, and throughout his life he has been in optimization. Okay. So he's a great, he has written a lot of books on optimization. Those who are taking a session on nonlinear optimization from level 15 onwards. So So great books on nonlinear optimization is written by Bertsikas. So those who want to really learn reinforcement learning could look into all these 3 books. Okay. Sutton Barto has a new edition in 2018. So it is an evolving edition. Okay. So it's available online. Okay. So you could read all those, and YouTube, there are good videos by Andrew MG. You know, the great teacher from MIT in Coursera, Andrew MG, is free YouTube videos are there on reinforcement learning. Any doubt at this point? Let me see anything in the chat box. Any doubt? Any feedback, comments? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt? My voice is very clear, or is it breaking? Any issues with my voice?
No, it is clear, sir. It is clear now.
So I'll anything in the chat box, because when I'm having full screen, I can't see anything in the chat. Jodhi Kulkarni, just we'll chat for a while so that I'll know you. Jodhi Kulkarni, from which place? Jodhi, are you there?
But she's not having the microphone. That's what she.
Can she type? Can she type? Jodhi, can you hear me? Yes, sir. Okay. Is it clear? Jodhi, you're from where, Jodhi? Which place are you? You're from Pune. Okay, great. So if you have any doubt, anybody, if you have any doubt for references, I'll put my email ID in the chat box. You can send me mail. I will give you some directions if you want. So let me move on to do justice to our title. Can you see the slides, Dr. Matthew?
Yes, we can see, sir.
So we have seen smart grid scheduling problem. If you remember, we had a plugged-in electric vehicle. The problem was when to start charging. So it was a single decision. Okay. Now I have, if you remember this model, SJ, FJ, LJ, RJ. SJ is the start time. I reached the college at 9 a.m. I'm going from college at 5 p.m. So SJ is 9. FJ is 5, and my car is an electric vehicle, plugged-in electric vehicle. Its total battery storage is 30 kilowatt hour, and currently it has half full. It is 15 kilowatt hour. That means I have to charge it for another 3 hours. The charging rate, the P is, RJ is 5 kilowatt, so LJ is 3. So earlier was the question, the problem we formulated, the scheduling problem of electric vehicle, we formulated it as when to start charging. Now we are reformulating it that when all should I switch on, not start charging. That is, I reach here at 9 a.m. It's not necessary that I should charge for 3 continuous hours. So it could be thought of as a load commitment problem also. So here the problem is I have to find out UM1, UM2, UM24. What is the UM1, UM2, UM24? Let it be plugged in electric vehicle or let it be any load. UM1, if UM1 is 1, it means that the nth load is on during first hour. UM2 equal to 1 means mth load is on during second hour. For example, in this figure, UM2 is 1, UM3 is 1, UM7 is 1, UM8 is 1, and UM9 is 1. So this is so I have to find out which combination this should be, this vector. So the solution will be of the form 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0 like that. So what do I want to minimize? I want to minimize, this is for one load or one car. What is the sigma ck rj ujk? This when ujk is 1, this term will come in, and rj is the rating of the load, ck is the tarif. So I have 24 hours. So whichever time interval I am switching on, that will contribute to the summation. I have m loads, and I want the load to be on for 5 hours. That means sigma ujk should be equal to 1. And my load is to be on between Sj and Fj. That means ujk is equal to 0. This is the mathematical problem. Okay. I have converted. So those researchers who want to apply RL, first they should convert their engineering problem to a mathematical problem. After converting to a mathematical problem, the next challenge is how can I pose this as a multi-stage decision-making problem or a shortest talk problem, which I have explained to you, the grid world problem. So that is what I'm trying to explain to you. So this summation sigma j equal to 1 to m min ujk I have written here. I removed the expectation. So I should involve choice of state. So what should be state here? What is state space? What is action? What is action space? What is the reinforcement function? State transition function, etc. So here, earlier we wanted to find when we are starting charging. Here I have to find out my state is a tuple x1, x2. This is my design. Okay. So what is x1? X1 is the current time of the day. X2 is, so a number of hours the load has been on. Suppose the car, the load has been on for 2 hours, then x2 is 2. Suppose the load has been on for 5 hours, x2 is 5. What is my state space? X1 can take any value between Sj and Fj. And x2 can take any values between 0 and 1. Action is action space is 0 and 1. And state transition function is like this. Every hour time moves on. And if I'm switching on, the number of hours it has been on will increase by 1. So I will tell you, one particular load is S is 8, F is 15, L is 4. What are the possible paths? I'm in 8-0. What is the transition? Next hour it will be 9-1. If it is switched on, if it's not switched on, it will become 10-1. Then you go 11-1. So it's like a grid world itself. And what is GXK? This is you capture the objective through this reinforcement function. So Gxa x nu is equal to Ck Rtj if A is equal to 1 and is equal to UDC. UDC is unit delay cost. And it is penalty. I will give a penalty if the car is not fully charged at the end of the time period F. So algorithm is same as our grid world algorithm. So I will go through it quickly. I'll start with my Sj0. Then what is my goal? Goal is if the load is fully charged or I'm at the end of my time, like I'll go home at 5 p.m. All the other things same as our grid world. Got this. This is my data. I had 5 cars or 5 loads. UDC I'm skipping, okay. I choose alpha, the learning rate as 0.1, epsilon initial as 0.5, penalty as 1000, maximum episode as 2000. So we tried it for random tariff, real-time tariff. Then what we obtained was, answer was commit to the first load during hours 8, 9, 10, and 11. Second was 8, 9, 10, and 15. So it is not continuous. So this was what we got. So you can read this paper, those who want to know more about this. And I want to, I want to sum up at this point. Any doubt? Any doubt? Any doubt? Anybody? I can see the chat box now. I have gone away from its feedback. Arya MG. Okay. Any doubts? So let me give you some more direction for further reading. Any doubt? Arya MG? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear, sir.
Okay, fine. So here in the example, the toy example, the grid world example, we had states 1 to 36. And then I gave an example where the number of states is 1 to 100. Suppose you're considering a robot moving in a room of size 10 feet by 10 feet. So what is the cell size? If the robot size is say 5 centimeter by 5 centimeter, the number of states will explode, isn't it? So the number of states 10 by 10 is okay. If I'm in a big room, say an auditorium, say 100 meter by 100 meter, and your robo is a very small robo, 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, the number of states will be large. Then my state, the number of states will be very huge. So I will go for what? I have to go for function approximation to store my Q values. Now X is, my state space is not discrete. The state space is continuous. People have done such works. Then instead of here, I'm storing my Q values in a Q table. You can store Q values in a neural network or a deep neural network. Then we have a DQN, where it's called deep Q learning or deep Q network. Then action also may be continuous. Say if you consider again robot. So the robots in my example, it was taking only 4 actions, left, right, up and down. Maybe I can have 8 actions. In general, when in a car, a robot may have infinite number of actions. It may have an angular velocity, so it could be continuous. And then there's this hot field called deep RL. So conceptually, the learning algorithm, everything is this Q value and all those things are there. But thing is that you, instead of having epsilon greedy, you have an actor network and a critic network. And you will search in policy space. So you can read more. You can read more on that in this paper. This is a very readable paper, human level control through deep reinforcement learning. It came in Nature. It is, it's a great paper, very celebrated paper. You can read. These are some of my papers. Here I have applied reinforcement learning for automatic generation control in discrete space. Then what did we did? We stored Q values in a radial basis function neural network. So if you want to read a very simple paper, maybe you can look into this old paper. If you want to jump in, what I would suggest is you look into Sutton Bartow book, read this paper, watch few videos by Andrew, or watch any YouTube video and go to YouTube and type reinforcement learning. So any questions? So take home. I'll keep the slide, and if I have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, Imtiaz sir, for the session on reinforcement learning. So I hope participants get a feel of what happens in reinforcement learning, and they can apply in whichever problem they are interested in. So so any questions for discussion from participant side? Any points, or you can just talk to Imtiaz sir. That's also it's good.
You can type and send me mail. I will be sharing the slides with you. Okay, I think my email ID is there. I will just take 2 more minutes. Nothing will be. Your session is coming at 11:15, isn't it?
Yeah. So that will just no problem.
I'll stop at 5 minutes. All of you like this during the break? Ice cream. Do you want an ice cream? Anyone? So this is the take home. The point is that in reinforcement learning, we learn as a kid, we learned when you do some good thing, your parents will give you ice cream or give you some sweets, or when you do bad things, they will shout at you. And when you're living in a society, you come to say to TKM. So there is some cultural, some appropriate behavior, some taboo, some good and some bad. There is some kind of way of living in TKM. As if you join as a young faculty, you might be a student somewhere. You join here as a young faculty with a lot of drive, but TKM has its own good and bad culture. Nobody will tell you how you should behave in TKM, how you should interact with students. So when you do good interactions, the system will give you ice cream, okay? And when you do bad interactions, the way the TKM expects it, it will give you negative signals. That's how we learn. And reinforcement is capturing this mathematically as a program. It's Gx x prime or Gx a x nu. You are in state X, you take an action A, you get x nu. So somehow you will have some q values. That will tell you if you are in this situation. So conclude. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Sorry for technical problems, okay?
Okay. So, okay, thank you, sir. So, since you are one of the coordinator, I don't want to say thank you, but on behalf of all the participants present here, we would like to thank you for the valuable time and the inputs that you have given us. So, as a whole, it was a wonderful session. So, thank you very much, sir. So next session, it was supposed to be at 11:15. We'll take 15 minutes break. So the next session will start at 11:20. Okay. So we'll have the next session at 11:20. So thank you very much. So the feedback form is available in the chat.